Okay, guys, now's the time. Let's go to the Langenkamp. It's
Give it
hard.
up. Give it up.
You know what? I took it up. It's okay.
How's everyone today?
Welcome back to Days of the Dead. It's been at least 3 weeks since we've seen
I
each
know.
other.
It's getting to be fun. I know.
You can compare me to code.
Yeah, I'm under the air conditioning vent, so that's why I'm getting warm.
So last con we did, it was freezing on this stage, and we were like, it was really cold.
Atlantic.
Oh my god, it was so strange.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick us off with a few questions, and then run through any questions for you again. Okay? So, of course, I mean, we covered some of the movies I love from you last time that were not nightmare related, but I got some more.
I'm not in
Okay?
that many movies at the bottom of the barrel. Okay, fair.
I love 1984's Passions.
That was the very first real, like, Hollywood movie that I made. That was a TV movie of the week.
Yes.
Joanne Woodward, these are all like the oldest people that I looked up to for a long time. Joanne Woodward, if you don't know, was married to Paul Newman forever, and just a real amazing actress. So I learned a lot from her. She was so dignified and calm, and before every scene, she would do this kind of a yoga practicing kind of thing that she kind of just focused all of her energy, and she would make these like energy balls with her hands, like out of the air, and then she would go on, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then even today, like I kind of use that, like before I start any kind of take with, on any part, I just, think of how she would kind of meditate and get all her energy focused into one point, and then start. So that's the one thing for Passions. And then Richard Crenna, who, he too, I mean, he's passed away now, but was a real staple for a lot of television and film back then. And I remember that one day we did a funeral scene, and he told the wardrobe people that he wanted to dress up as a woman for that scene. So in the scene, like just to cut everybody up and like bring some levity to the day, he dressed like this woman, and we all were just like shocked. Right. It was silly then. Those kinds of things on sets are always really welcome. You're really under a lot of pressure, especially in those TV movies. They shoot them very fast. So.
And it was a very serious drama.
Very drama.
Yeah.
And I'm a young woman who thinks she has this like perfect family, a dad and a mom, a very affluent, who live in a mansion, of course. And then it's discovered that my father had an affair with Lindsay Wagner.
A long-term affair.
And I have a baby, and
Yes.
we never knew about it, and I have to go meet this child of sin. Actually, it was the first time I was asked to cry on screen, and I just really wasn't that talented at doing that yet, and I hadn't really figured out how to do that on cue over and over and over again, and so I found that really challenging, and so after that film, I was like, I am determined to work really hard so that crying on film is not a big deal at all. And over the years, I've been with actresses, one who to cry just one tear on demand. She was in a Broadway show where she had to cry every night. And she told me like how she figured out how to do that. And she showed me she could actually cry just one teardrop from her right teardrop. And I'm like, someday. And we didn't know that.
That is some skill set.
That's a skill set.
Also, the Fugitive Mind.
Wow. So Fugitive Mind was with Michael Dudikoff,
Yes.
who was a sex symbol extraordinaire of the 80s. And it seemed like the deal was there was a German filmmaking company that would hire him for every movie. So Michael Dudikoff was in 100 movies. And I didn't know this. He was such a superstar, but he was very handsome and very sweet. But I
huge remind if you're interested, because it's a fun little film on Tubi right now.
It's on TV, really?
I'm pretty sure it's still on there. I saw it a few years ago on Tubi, but I'm pretty sure it's
a
going to be
great
there.
movie. It's kind of a
Okay.
spy thriller,
It's
and this
fun.
guy has amnesia, of course.
Yes.
And then I have to remind him that he was like this really important
Yeah.
and I try to like save his life. Of course, again, I'm doing all the heavy lifting, doing all the work, but saving some guy.
I remember watching that one for the first time. My husband, who I'm forced to watch horror movies with me for 15 years, of course, he's like, "That's the girl."
That's it. And that's why we're watching this. That's why we're watching this.
Basically, he's like, "That's why you're watching this." I said, "Well, it's also a good movie."
It's a pretty good movie.
But yes, that's the girl.
Yeah, that was a good movie. It would be a good TV movie to watch.
Yes, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, not too far.
Coming a little closer so you don't have to strain those memory banks so much. Home.
Oh,
What a beautiful film, by the way, and fun twist at the end, but really just a wonderful,
Touchy.
wonderful film. Yes, yes.
that movie, I mean, I recommend it. That movie was the first time that I worked with a director who said, well, like, why don't you send me the script and then I'll work on it. It was one of these fast things. And it's like, oh, we're not going to have a script. Like,
Wait, what?
What? Like, we're going to improv the whole movie. And we're going to just kind of tell you the scenarios. Like, we're having dinner and your daughter by a previous marriage is coming by and she's really religious. And then, so we improv the whole movie. Like, none of it is written down. It's all improv. I know it was hard because you do one take and you, like, hello, come sit down. And then you don't remember if you used your right hand or your left hand, and there's no way to know. So, again, with memory, you just have to really remember everything you do. And there were a lot of people in that show, so it was very taxing, but we shot that movie in a very few number of days. And the script, the idea behind it is really good. Yeah, really good.
No, of course not. It's still on the newer side. I'm fun when I'm watching that DVD.
You're making me sound like I'm in all these great films.
You are though. You are though. Well, don't forget,
Oh,
because
thank you.
they all deserve
They're
recognition.
really sweet. It's making me feel really good.
Yeah, they all deserve recognition. They're all very good.
So nice.
Oh, stop. Okay, one final one before I turn it over to the
You guys
audience.
know it's gonna be.
What?
There's only one.
You saw my list? No, there's not one left. I actually have two on my
Tanya
list.
and Nancy.
No, no, already.
Oh, we did, okay.
Let's go with, I have two options. I'm going with the portal.
Oh, okay, Portal is cool. I like
It's
that.
fun. Isn't it fun?
Yeah, so Portal, with a friend of mine produced that, and I got involved through him. And he really wanted us to create a monster for the very end of the movie, but they didn't have any money, so I had one of the guys at our shop who's really talented. I said, okay, it's a feature film, they need a monster at the end, and he's kind of like a mystical, maybe Native American spirit world kind of monster. And we just threw a blank. I'm like, we don't know what this thing looks like. There was no hints in the script, and so we ended up making something that wasn't that good. It didn't end up in a fun movie, thank goodness. But yes, that's when they wanted me to be involved. It's because they wanted a monster, and I don't make monsters. My husband does, and he was unavailable, so we just cobbled something together. And I think that the director was really mad because it didn't serve its purposes. The monster was cool enough, but it's really hard to design monsters for horror. And you know, when you think, okay, we have to be original and it's never been done before, it has to come, and they also wanted it for very little money, and it is hard to make a monster. That was criteria, and my husband right now is working on a monster actually, and it's such a good monster, and it's actually kind of an adorable monster, but also a scary monster. And it's a film called Your Monster that's going to come out at the end of the year. So yeah, it's really fun to be around people who are making monsters. It's hard.
It must be amazing though. I mean, especially because your husband is creating the art, well, family, the art of practical effects.
Yes.
And, you know, me, myself, I think most of us here are, you know, team practical effects over
Yes,
CGI.
Yes,
And-
EE.
yeah.
Not CGI. We do not. Though I have to say that nowadays one of the reasons that the practical effects are so great is because they do marry a little bit of CGI into them, especially in the area of green screen, like in painting out. Like if you want to see through someone's body, paint a big green hole in the costume, and then later when you're editing, you lay in, the picture of the background that you want, so it looks like they're see-through. Like there's all these things that you use CGI for to make your effect look really cool.
Right. Well, and my personal opinion, I don't know how many people here disagree, is that's how CGI really should be used, and just as an enhancement, not as the main effect.
Well, believe it or not, a lot of the CGI effects come from like one or two guys in Hollywood who are all well known, and they've been making a lot of monsters. Aliens and creatures for a long time. So, like, there's this one kind of alien that kind of looks like a big octopus with like a mouth in the middle. Like, there's like 8 movies with that alien, and it's because it's kind of the same guy just taking old drawings and recreating ideas. But everyone has kind of like their lane, and so when a new guy comes along and has kind of new ideas about aliens, they usually snap them up right away, and if you mine his imagination for the next movie that he wants. In fact, actually, one of the guys that I met at a con, his dad came up to me and said, "Oh, my kid is really into illustrating, and I think he's really good. But what could he do to get a job in Hollywood?" And I said, "Well, he should come out there and you should call and let me, look at his work and give it to David and see if they like it." And he loved it, and we actually used him for, he helped us make the Red Devil for screen movies, actually. So his name is Xander Smith. He's really super talented, and now he's like the highest paid one of the designers. But I met him at a con. Actually, I met his dad, and his dad was really sweet.
For parents.
Yeah.
Those are
Parents,
kids'
man.
work.
Those pushy parents.
Look at my kids' work.
Look at my kid's work. But he was good.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Okay, audience questions. I know we got some. Let's start here. Yes.
Yeah.
Was it ever weird talking to Robert England when y'all was on? Did he ever stay in character, or was it just like
He didn't. He never stayed in character. But he would use his voice from time to time, like to make a joke or something like that, or he'd grab you and go, he was always joking around, and he never was very serious. Except, I can say he was always really serious when we were going to do a fight scene, because he was petrified of hurting me with his blades, and so he would always let me know, like, oh, these are the fake blades, or he'd always let me know these are the real blades, and then we have to be, play it cool. And so when he was going to use his real blades, and he used them a lot of the times because he wanted them to make clanking, like clicking sounds, and so, or they wanted the light to glint off of the blade, they needed to be real metal. So he would say, well, these are real, and then we would practice the moves very, precisely, so that I didn't go left and he went right, kind of. That's like the dance. And so we always practiced. He was so conscientious about his blades. And the only nightmares I really ever had in the very beginning were of those blades, like, getting too close. They were terrifying.
Yes.
Hi, Heather.
Hello.
What was it like working with Johnny Depp?
It was great. I love Johnny, and he was new at the business like I was, but I had had a couple of other experiences. I had been in Passions, and I'd been in an independent movie called Nickel Mountain, and a couple commercials, so I had a little bit more experience than he did, so I felt completely okay with telling him what to do. I'd be like, Johnny, you want to stand up there? And talk louder, I can't hear you. And he was often, he has a quiet voice. His normal voice is very soft. And Wes would say, okay, you guys, pick up the pace, because one of the things when you're acting, sometimes you take a lot of time to think about what you're going to say next so that you look real. But but really, in horror, and I always tell people if you're directing horror, like go way faster than you think is natural, because the people watching, they need that speed a little bit so that they don't go down, their guard doesn't get dropped, you know. And I always, when I judge horror movies, I'm always aware of how fast the pace is, and so I think Johnny and I were always being told to go faster. You know, maybe we sit there like, we're going as fast as we can, you know. And we would grouse on the sidelines, and you know, we'd ask like, what does Wes want? You know, what is he looking for? You know, we'd be worried. And Johnny was so earnest, and there were so few actors at that time because it was the time of the Brat Pack and all these really cool guys, and they all were so popular on the cover of all the teen magazines, and Johnny wasn't there yet. And so he was still very shy and reserved and very modest. And on most of our off time, he was really studying his lines and working and trying to do the best that he could. And, you know, I've worked with other actors who are like on the corner lifting weights and their muscles look really big. You know, it's like he was not that. He just wanted to be honest and really give a great performance. And that's, you know, it's so lovely to work with somebody like that.
Oh yeah, the trap, was there any improv with that, or was the trap kind of set for Freddy when you were like starting to like make sure like Freddy doesn't get you when you were creating the trap?
Yeah, all the booby traps.
Yes, and also what is your favorite Halloween?
So which is my favorite booby trap, or was it fun doing the booby traps, or?
I'm wondering, was the trap improvised at all, or was that just written to play? And no
Interesting.
improv?
That's a really good question, because Wes, everything in that movie is based in reality in some way. And so he really did find that manual, booby traps and improvised anti-personnel devices.
I thought you did that so.
Yes, so he'd actually heard of this book, and those were all real booby traps that you can find in that book. And so I come to work the day, they're like, we're doing the booby traps today. I'm like, okay. And the special effects guy, probably Jim Doyle or someone, set me down, and he's like, okay, this one, he told me how they all work. Like, this is a light bulb, and the filament is going to catch this exploding powder on fire. We're going to have you filing away the glass. And so they basically just told me how all the booby traps work. And the trip line on the lamp that's going to have the rigged light bulb in there that's going to have the explosion. Like, they all were really, like, if we had made them in real life, they would have really worked. But they're all augmented by Hollywood special effects. So when Freddie trips the trip line, they actually had a big explosion in the lamp. And I mean, you know, I love the sledgehammer is like one of my favorite ones. Has anyone used that yet in their house? I challenge someone to try that, because I just can't believe it. I mean, it would work really well. But yeah, it was ingenious, right? And so there was the light bulb, and then there was the sledgehammer. But what other booby trap was it that you saw me do? I can't remember
You
anymore.
lit a match. I think you
Well, then that was just, you know, gasoline on fire. That's not really a booby trap. But yes, I had the gasoline ready to light him on fire. So there's like 3 or 4 things along the way that I was going to get him. And that was the most original part of the movie, I think. I mean, that idea of setting booby traps in your dreams for the monster there. I think it's actually probably because Wes was a lucid dreamer. He was somebody who could actually dream and then control himself in the dreams doing things. So if he would describe how if something was after him, he could fly away, and he would be able to always manipulate his dreams in the way that he wanted to have an end. So I do believe that this idea of booby traps in your dreams are something that you could probably employ if you could develop lucid dreaming, and you could, you know, get out of any scary situation in your own dreams if you could just lay some booby traps to the monster in there.
Yes, so I want to know what the juxtaposition was like to work with Wes when you were young, and then when he called you back for a nightmare, and how excited were you when you got that call?
Yeah, so when Wes and I say goodbye after so then I would always send him a thank you note. And then he would usually send me a letter back. So like during my birthday, which is in the summer, like I would usually have either we'd have lunch or we'd get together. And then I got a call from Wes and said, I've written a script for Nightmare 3 and I want to include Nancy in it. Would you be in it if I wrote this script? And I said, of course, my gosh, of course. And I was not working very much at that time and I was really excited. So I was super excited about Nightmare 3, but a little less excited when I heard that he wasn't going to direct it. That was like a letdown. But still, we did the best we could with Chuck Russell. It was fine. No, he was great. And I really love that movie so much, and that's so gratifying. And then a lot of time went by, maybe 5 years, maybe more. And Wes called me again, and he said, they've been, though we know we had lunch, and he said, I've been trying to think of an idea for a new Nightmare on Elm Street for many years now, and I finally thought of it. And I was like, great, and he's like, and you're in it. And I'm like, even better. And we talked a lot about, we didn't talk at all about the meta breaking up the fourth wall. He didn't really tell me what it was going to be about. And then he just kind of came to my house and laid on my doorstep and I read it. And I was like, I don't think so, Wes. I don't think it's good. I just don't really think anyone's going to buy this idea. This is too much and I can't play myself. And David, my husband, he doesn't like the idea either. And do we have to do it? And like, does it have to be this story? And then he's like, well, I think it's really good. And I think New Line really loves it. And you have to play this part. And so you don't have to, but we'd like you to. And so I said, okay. And I asked him if we could tone down the Heather Langenkamp part a little bit. He's like, no, it's great. Everyone's gonna love it. So I did it, and it was really, really wonderful. And like I said, my career has been full of lots of these Michael Dudikoff movies, and like some real low budget movies. Like this was a chance to be in a really big budget movie finally, and it felt like that. I had better wardrobe. They had better craft service. We had an actual trailer that we could stay in when we were not working, and it was a dream come true. And it felt like finally like a big time. So when you see me in the limo going to that show, like it wasn't quite that cool. Like I wasn't driving limos anywhere, but it felt like really top shelf movie making.
That one's my favorite.
Yeah, it's one of my. I mean, I like them all, but for every different reason. I like them all for different
It
reasons.
depends on my mood too.
Yeah.
But as
we're growing older, that one really becomes more scary too.
yeah, none of those are actually scared me. Started when I was too young, I think, so I was just like super desensitized from it. And one kill scared me, and then one kill in a different franchise scared me. That's the only time I've been frightened of a horror film. But no, 7 is my favorite, and it might be my favorite. That and Freddy's Dead might be my favorites because I was of an appropriate age. I saw them when they were brand new.
Yeah.
Brand new. So I didn't see them. I was born in the
You
80s.
too. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I didn't see them years later,
Yeah.
like the other ones.
And people told you all that, giving away the best parts too. You're in school and they're like, yeah, and then she gets ripped apart of the ceiling and he's dragging her like, oh, well, spoiler.
That was actually me. I wasn't doing it away, but I was grabbing all of my 8-year-old friends home with me to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. And but that one is my
I would have
favorite.
been very angry with you if that was my daughter.
Well,
Very mad.
their parents were fine with it. I think they were probably watching them at home too.
Okay.
And my family's like, is she okay? So she seems okay. They never did mind the violence much in a horror film. They more minded, because I knew it was fake, they more minded the nudity.
Yeah.
in the movie.
That's the way parents are.
But
Makes no sense.
the Freddy movies didn't really have a lot of that.
That really, they didn't have too much nudity. Wes did not like that. He was a modest, really modest person, and he had a very strict, religious upbringing. And I think nudity embarrassed him, and even the nightie with the little, see-through nighties were embarrassing. But he knew that we needed to have that, to be a tease, and also once you start thinking about about the sexuality of a really young girl, then you know you're in this like really untethered place. You don't know whether you should be attracted to this young girl. I mean, it's a complicated thing to have teenagers naked and stuff, I think. But those are, you know, that's our content.
More in this section. Any more?
Yes.
Right over there.
Oh, outtakes, have I ever seen them? No, we didn't. I don't remember. We did. Well, I mean, that was a hard day because I didn't have to be naked, but I mean, you're really exposed in that bathtub. And there weren't that many people on set, but there's still 20 people, you know, so. And like I said, Wes was embarrassed too. Like, he didn't want to feel like that I was embarrassed. And so we were both mortified, and here I had to be in this scene with nothing on, and so we did the best we could just to pretend like everything was a normal day at work. But then Rob Shea came up to me probably halfway through the day. He's like, Heather, I don't want to upset you. It's going to be fine. We got rid of him, and he's never coming back. But there's been a photographer up in the catwalk of this soundstage the whole morning. And I was like, what? He's like, I think, you know, we weren't able to really confiscate his film. And I'm like, what? And so I knew that there were going to be all these pictures of me that were taken by some, you know, some photographer that we didn't know who he was. And I've been bracing myself, like, for a long time for these photos to come out. And nowadays, nobody would think twice about it on the internet. Like, everybody is, you know, posting photos of themselves, it's fine. But back then, it was considered like, even being in a horror movie was kind of scandalous. And now I'm like, in the bathtub naked in a. So, smash cut, a year or two later. And I went to David Leroy Anderson, and he's going to be taking me to go visit his grandmother. And it's a big deal. Go to her house, and on the coffee table is this magazine called Celebrity Skin. And his grandmother doesn't say a word about it, but I see it and I go bright red because I know exactly what it is. It's all these photos that they put in this magazine, and I left there that day just so kind of ashamed, but for no good reason. Just that idea of, like, she is 90 years old from the Philippines, and she probably thinks I'm just such a slut. And I'm trying to impress this family so hard, and it's never going to work. So anyway, she didn't say anything, but I thought that was very classy of her. But putting it on the coffee table was a message that I'll never forget. You have to often say things to get your message across. That's what I learned from that. I know who you are. Watch your step.
All right, any more? Right in the front here.
Is there a genre that you still want to play?
If anyone is casting for the next Bridgerton, yes, I will definitely play any part in a costume drama. I'm in love with the 1810 to 1850 kind of time frame. I must have lived back then because all I want to do is live then. And I don't know. I love Westerns so much. If anyone out there is casting for Yellowstone, I would love to play in one of their like prequels. I'd love to do that too. Yes. Oh, wait, what's the last part? What about the bathtub scene? Can someone who can hear him repeat his question?
You say he was confused about what his hand came out of that.
Oh, he was confused about why and how that happened? So, if you can imagine the bathtub is something they probably could have bought at Home Depot. They carved out the bottom of the bathtub with a saw, and they placed it on top of a 8-foot tank of water made out of plywood. And many different angles. And so it was a full day of Wes banging on the tub. It was like, and then I would be like, wait a minute, there's no bubbles, and like, gotta get more bubbles in here. And so then they'd be like, gotta get some bubbles. And they would be inside making a bunch of bubbles, and then they pour the bubbles in. So you can see the bubble continuity is not that good. You'll see them very thick and foamy, and then suddenly they're like thin.
That's an effect skill, bubble
Yeah.
continuity.
Bubble continuity, yes. You, yeah. Nancy's death.
Were you happy?
Yeah, okay. Yes, I was very happy with it because I played this part that's supposed to be such a caretaker and to just like giving myself to these kids and giving them all this information about how to survive and exploring this Freddie world with them. And I did feel like dying was the appropriate storyline that could elevate Nancy to this more of a savior and this person who sacrificed for the kids. And I think that a great character in literature or anywhere, if they die for their cause, they're just that much nobler. And I never really thought that there would be another film that Nancy could be in. So I thought, oh, this is perfect. I end this, this part of my life dying for these kids. And being tricked by Freddie too, I thought was really ingenious because it made Freddie that much worse, right? He became so evil at that moment when he did that. And I just thought it made that movie so great. And I think it's one of people's favorites. Yeah.
So I just finished the Midnight Club and you were amazing in that. I was
Oh, you liked it?
You said I had a copy of the second season.
What's it? I know it's not renewed for the second season. It's heartbreaking.
Who are you sad?
Yeah, I'm very sad about that because we'd always been told it was going to be 2 seasons long. And so all the storylines were only halfway through.
Yeah.
We're only halfway through all of the storylines. And I think Mike Flanagan is probably really disappointed as well but in your career, you have all these opportunities, and he had this opportunity to have a new big deal with Amazon. And so our show was with Netflix. And I think in the process of him telling Netflix, sorry, I'm going to Amazon, our show kind of got in the middle of all that. And unfortunately, Netflix made the decision that they thought made sense for them. And on the other hand, too, I realized like that show is so heavy and so deep that perhaps Netflix thought that it wouldn't find an audience. And it's like, people are, we've been dealing with so much death, and so many people's families have been just devastated by, and they still are. And maybe it's not a topic that Netflix wanted to pursue either. Dying of cancer is hard to sell on television as like, it was heavy. It was really, really heavy. But all those actors were so good, and Ruth Codd and Zorian Zapota, all of them became, I really just treasured getting to get to know them, and hopefully we'll work again in a Flanagan universe at some other time, I don't know. But Fall of the House of Usher is coming out, and a lot of those same kids are in that too, so if you love them, you'll get to see them again really soon. I think they're almost done editing it. But thank you, I loved playing.
You were amazing.
I know, now I wear tattoos all the time with the devil, more tattoos, and you get to see the devil in there, I got to play. So, yeah.
So out of all the scenes you did with Robert, what is your favorite scene?
With Robert, I think the one I remember the most is when we're in Nightmare 7 in the dungeon, and we're doing all those different fights, like through the dungeon, and I get to say fuck you, and I get to that was definitely my favorite day working with Freddy Krueger. And then I get to take the eel and just, punch his eyes out with it. That was just so victorious. I felt so good about doing that. And I developed this red hot hatred for Freddy Krueger in my own psyche. And so being able to actually act it out was great. I hate Freddy Krueger.
And in that movie, what was it like working with Miko, and how did you develop that relationship to appear believable with such a young child?
then when they said Miko Hughes was playing my son, I'm like, I'm gonna be a great mom. and you know, by then he had turned into just the cutest little boy. I mean, he was so adorable, and he was such a professional little actor. And after every scene that he did, you know, he always was perfect. He never missed his lines. And his mom would have like his little McDonald's waiting for him. Like you have to encourage kids in, you know, ways. Like no one brought me McDonald's after I did the scene. I'm like, I learned, you know, we had a great relationship, and even when I see him now, I do feel like his mom still. He's a great kid. I mean, he's a man now, but lovely person, lovely person.
So my favorite all-time 1980s movie is with an all-star cast, and you might remember this would have been your first credited role, but you're seeing that deleted. The Outsiders with
Yes.
Patrick Swayze.
Oh yeah.
Emilio Estevez,
Let's talk about the Brad Pack,
South
yeah, all the cutest
So
guys in the
my
world.
question is, why did your scene get deleted? Do you know why?
Well, so in The Outsiders, I was an extra, and I was just hired to be in the final scene the day they get out of school, and everyone's rushing out of high school, and they had a cast of hundreds of teenagers in Tulsa, but I just went in and got hired as an extra. But then after that, they were making Rumblefish right next, like right away, and there was a whole, you know, a night scene that was being shot, and they needed some extras for that scene as well, and a wedding scene. And so I'm in that wedding scene where I invite Vincent Spano and Matt Dillon up to a wedding, like a reception. And I think it was just a matter of they didn't need the scene, and if you don't need a scene, you know, you're pretty smart just to cut it out. But that's how I got my SAG card in that scene, and so I used that to go to LA and, you know, get parts, which was very handy. So I was just happy to have that SAG card. I was like, yes!
Yeah.
So next year is a very big year for Langenkamp's 40th anniversary. Is there anything special that you would like to see done to celebrate the occasion?
Well, I just want Robert and me, I want Robert and I to be on the cover of Vanity Fair. Like as an actor, I think being on the cover of Vanity Fair would be so cool. But that's so old fashioned, right? Nobody even buys Vanity Fair anymore. But I just feel like I do think that Robert has done something with Freddy Krueger that I don't think anybody has done ever. People don't honor it enough how hard he works to like make this character an icon of our age. And it's a lot of hard work on his part. I mean, he sacrifices a lot of his, I mean, he loves it, so I don't think sacrifice is really the right word, but making this character so important to the history of film here in America and the world. And but he wants to, like, he's an ambassador for horror, but he's also an ambassador for this franchise. And he's an ambassador for this hobby or love or obsession that everybody has for scary movies. So I think he deserves so much credit, and I don't know how Hollywood is going to honor him. Of course, he should get a star on the Walk of Fame. I mean, maybe he already has one. I don't know, but he should have one. And I think there's a lot of things like that that I'd love to see him properly honored. And if I get invited along, but I do feel that we're in a culture that loves the monster, and you know, we love the Final Girls too, but it's a different kind of love. And I'll just be curious. I mean, I'd love to see what happens in the 40th anniversary. And it's 2024, which I just think is such a great number. I love 2024. I think it's a really magical number. So we'll see.
And I know this is the Heather Langenkamp now, but let's talk about Robert for a second.
Yeah.
And the true genius that he is. Let's step, like I did with you, let's step away from A Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy. His other body of work is so massively impressive in horror and non-horror alike. But I tell people, what's it, girl, what's your favorite Robert Englund movie? I'm like, Cat Here. It's a beautiful film.
I haven't seen that one.
You gotta see it first of
Okay.
all. It's a beautiful film, and he's great in it, and everyone's great in it. And I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, no, I the different kinds of Hollywood are on there too. And now he's in a new, it's so new and different, and he's still killing it out there.
Exactly.
Literally, yeah.
I think he just deserves to be recognized for everything else he's done as to you, outside of this franchise. Because it is a very impressive.
Well, that's the next year. Thank you.
Okay, guys,